I'm not going to hear anything, am I? Am I hearing? There we go. There you go. Beautiful. Are you going to introduce me? Come on, man. Get with it.
I don't have another mic. So
What have I trained you for?
Guys, this is Dr. Olshine. He is the head of the youth ministry department at Columbia International University, where I graduated from.
And free T-shirts.
And there you go. You got some free T-shirts. I got one as well. But yeah, he's knows everything about youth ministry. If you ask him anything, he knows the answer, and he's going to help you have no problems with your teenagers ever. And if you have any problems,
It's my fault.
talk to him. Yeah. Yeah. How else do I introduce you? Is that good?
Yeah, that was.
Anybody?
I do have children, by the way.
He's got 2 children.
Yes. Rachel.
Rachel and Andrew.
Very good.
Yeah. And Rachel, fairly recently married.
Married a year and a half ago. Recently, now pregnant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a grandpa.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. First one.
And his wife, Rhonda.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew's still living with you guys at home?
Yep. Andrew's special needs child. Yep. Down
So-
syndrome. Yeah, awesome kid.
Yeah. And written millions of books?
Yep, millions.
Or half a book?
By the way, we have free books over here. Some are by me, some are by other people. They're free. So if they look interesting, just grab it. Thanks. That was good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And you've been at CIU for a while.
Almost as old as Adam and Eve, yes. Yeah, I've been there this is my 28th year. Yep. Yep. Welcome. Thanks for being here. My job here is to help you have fun today. And we're going to go for about an hour, take a 5-minute stretch break, come back for another 35 minutes, and we will be out of here. The plan is to get out of here at 2:30, if not sooner. Does that sound okay for you guys? You're looking mean, like. Okay, good. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. You just had that. I remember this. I was doing this seminar, and this guy was in the back. He was just sitting there, just looking gruff, like he didn't want to be there. So I picked on him the entire time, and he just said, "Well, that's just the way I look." So let me pray, and then let's get rocking and rolling. Lord, thank you for today, and thank you for these folks that really do care about their kids. And it's not that those who couldn't be here don't care. It's just that the ones that are here are modeling that they want to learn something. And so I pray that you help them learn something today and take away something good. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so I want you to start off with a crowd breaker at your table. You should have a little booklet. If you have a booklet, hold that up so I know you've got that. Not that booklet. No, wrong booklet. No, not that booklet. You're 0 for 2. Now you got it. There you go. There you go. There you go. Okay. Open up to page 1. There's a set of questions. All right. And I want you to go back memory lane. Going back memory lane is important because when you don't remember what you used to be like, when you forget that, you'll have a harder time connecting with your kid. So what I want you to do is, as a table, I want you to go around the room and go around your table. I don't want you to write these out. I want you to talk them out. And these are like quick hitters. These are like 30-second. So I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to answer 4 questions. So now the person who's going to be the leader of your table is going to be the person with your birthday closest to today. So you have to figure that one out. Whoever has your birthday is closest to today, April, whatever the date is, 17th, 18th. Or do you know your leader? Who's here? You? Okay, and over here? Okay, so your job, leaders, is to ask the question, like, when you were 13, 16, 18, what'd you do for fun? Okay, and they'll just go around and talk about it. And then you, the leader, your job is to facilitate. What kind of music and movies did you listen to? Where'd you hang out? What'd you do well? What was your relationship with your parents like? Got it? So you don't write these out, you talk them out. Okay? So that's what your job is. So I'm giving you 6 minutes. You're the leader, right? You're the leader. All right, you're on the clock. 6 minutes. Ray said go. Okay, great. You got 3 minutes and 33 seconds left. One minute, 1 minute. 10 seconds. You are done. Okay, so tell me, what did you do when you were between 13 and 18? What did you do for fun? Let's start here. Just throw it out.
I lived at the mall.
The mall. Called to the mall. Okay.
Hang out with my friends and listen to music.
Okay. Same thing?
I was in band, so I was always with the band.
Always with the band? Jared?
Me and my brother would skateboard.
That makes sense.
I come from an older generation that kids didn't do a whole lot
Okay.
back then.
Okay.
And we lived in the country, so I learned to cook and I learned to take care of all the house stuff. And by the time I was 15, I could go buy groceries and cook meals for the week.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. How about music and movies? Let's start right here. Music and movies. And by the way, this is a no guilt, no shame zone. So whatever you say, it's okay. And for those who are watching, it's Jared Leeds' fault. Okay. Music and movies. Just fire away.
Classic rock
Sure.
and Star Wars.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I was like AC/DC, ZZ Top.
The children's director likes AC/DC and DC. That's great. And DC Talk. That's quite a.
Well, you have to have your Christian rock.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, now you're old school, so
Actually, the Beatles.
I was going to say Elvis Presley,
Elvis Presley.
Simon Garfunkel,
Bands.
Carole King,
Yep, Carole King. Yep, Neil Diamond.
Yes Band.
Yep, well,
Did you know them?
yeah, Chicago Transit Authority.
There you go. That was the first concert I ever went to, Chicago.
The one here.
No, it was, where was it? No, this was like in Wisconsin or something. Yeah. How about you guys, music and movies?
The Journey fans over here.
Journey, I heard that. Same with you too? How about music? How about movies? Favorite movie? What?
A lot of the 80s movies, like I said, I watched like a lot of like Goonies, Space Camp,
Top Gun.
yeah, those kind of things.
Grease has always been my favorite movie. That was
Grease?
the first movie we went to the drive-in to see.
Nice. How about you?
I didn't have a favorite.
But give me something that you liked.
Oh, I liked them all. All the ones that have been listed.
Okay. You?
Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventures, my favorite movie of all time.
What's your name?
Marcy.
Marcy, like Pee Wee Herman. Oh my goodness.
That takes bravery.
It does take bravery to even acknowledge that publicly. All right, where'd you hang out? Stay right here. Where'd you guys hang out?
I grew up out in the country, so kind of like just in the churchyard and the
Okay.
fields and the nothing glamorous. That's for sure.
Okay, where'd you hang out?
I like the Waffle House.
Good.
Youth group. I love some
Youth group, mall, and waffle. I'm getting a theme from you here. Okay, and Journey. Okay, what about you guys? Where'd you hang out? The yard. Okay.
skating rink and then the mall or friends' houses or whatever, yeah.
Okay, and stay here. What'd you do well when you were in middle school, high school? Music.
I helped with my little sisters and worked at the house. I was
You-
in the drama club.
Okay, ladies here.
I'm a book nerd, so my homework actually.
You liked homework. Okay, you were good at homework.
I'd be a professional student if I could.
Okay,
Still to.
all right. Your name is what?
Stacy.
Stacy. What were you good at?
I was an only child, so I spent a lot of time like just reading and
Reading.
doing puzzles and things like that that I could do by myself.
Okay. And tell me your name. Erica. Erica, what were you good at? This is such a hard question for people, isn't it?
Ask us what we're bad at, and I bet we have a plan of management.
Yes, that's not part of the agenda today. Thank you.
I don't know. I didn't do. We did music.
Were you good? Were you a pretty good student? Okay, there you go. And tell me your name.
Marcy.
You're Marcy. Erica, Stacy, and Melissa. Okay.
I love drama as well. I did like
Acting.
community theater.
Okay, cool, cool. Very good. And last question, what was your relationship with your parents like when you were in middle school, high school?
Fantastic. And
Really?
They were my confidant when I needed it, but stepped away when I didn't. They were the supporters of everything that we could do. They were as involved as they needed to be or wanted to be, and we wanted them to be. So I say we, my sister. So it's fantastic.
Jared, you just left middle school, high school recently.
Relationship with my parents is great. My mom homeschooled me all the way through, so I'm very close with her. And my dad did a lot of sports with him as well, and Boy Scouts and stuff. So
Yep.
very close with him as well.
You?
50's parents weren't quite as involved in the lives of kids, but my family relationship was very tempestuous.
Okay. How about you all?
Very positive.
Positive?
I avoided them if I could.
Why?
It was an extremely dysfunctional, upsetting place to be. So
Gotcha.
I was not at home. I was home as little as I possibly humanly could get away with.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so question. Why did I ask you to do this exercise?
To see if we're going to be parenting the same way we were parenting. We're going to continue on.
It's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons. What else?
We can relate.
What do you mean?
Now we are our parents. We're our parents, so.
Yep. What's the tragedy of not remembering what it used to be like as it relates to parenting today?
You can repeat some things that weren't so great.
Very good. That's good stuff. Very good. Okay, so that is leading up to tip number 1. I've got a few tips for you today. And the first tip is this. Teens are growing up. Here's your first fill in the blank. Teens are growing up for those of you who are watching by live stream. And if it doesn't work well, it's all Matt's fault, okay? Teens are growing up in a different world. Key word is the word different. And I think the principle here is to do idealizing the past. There's your second fill in the blank. Write the word past in. Do you remember the phrase that your parents used on you that maybe you've used on your kids? It starts off like this. When I was, help me out, your age. Thank you. What do we mean by that when we say that? What does that phrase mean? When I was your age, huh?
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, right. And so about 2 years ago, I was doing this seminar in Greenville, and there's a couple hundred people there, and it was more of a. It didn't feel like a lecture, but that's what it became because it was such a big group. But we had a Q&A afterwards, and this one man raised his hand. He said, "What do I do about my son? He watches way too much TV." And I was like, "Well, how much TV does he watch?" And he said, "He watches about 12 hours a day." I was like, "Wow, that is a lot." And no, this was a public Q&A, so I could see that we were going into heavy waters in a second. And I said, "Can you tell me more about that?" He said, "Well, he just watches a lot of TV." And I said, "Well, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Where is the TV? Where's the TV positioned?" And you know what his answer was? In his bedroom. Well, and I didn't want to confront him publicly, but I was like, here's a problem. If you don't want your kid to watch 12 hours of TV today, you need to rethink where the TV is placed, right? So, of course, for all of us here in this room, because most of us are a little bit older than our kids, we probably didn't have TVs in our own room, right? But now we've got this little gadget here. It's called a cell phone. And I can watch, like last week I could watch March Madness, right, on my phone. This is a crazy, crazy thing. The world's a different place. Now, this group here, I'm going to give you a task. And this group, you're going to have a task, all right? But you can't let each other hear each other, all right? I want you to come up with 3 reasons why you believe. Matt, it's all your fault, Matt. All right, got it. I want you to talk about 3 reasons why you believe kids today are the same as they were 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, okay? Your job, your thesis is this: kids are radically different. They're totally different. Got it? 10, 15, you're looking at me again. 10, 15, 20 years.
I'm intently listening.
I like that. Okay, what? Teens are exactly the same, right? Teens are radically different. I want you to come up with 3 reasons why you believe that. You got 40 seconds to come up with this. Someone be a scribe and write these down. Ready, set, go. You got 30 seconds. Go.
Because it wasn't there. We went outside and ordered anything.
10 seconds. Time's up. Teens are the same. Tell us why.
Kids need food, clothes, and shelter.
Okay.
They've always
Okay.
wanted-
Fair enough.
They need emotional support from their parents. They need to be kept active in some way or the other. They need guidance. They go to school. Their base and core subjects are still pretty much the same, even though all the surrounding stuff has changed.
Okay, good. Teens are radically different.
We said that they're more aware of the things going on now because there's more access to things like
Mm.
social media, computers, the TV with the news and everything like that. We also said there's different rules and restrictions that you have to place on kids now than you did back then as far as electronics. And
Yes.
everything like that. And then also, it seems like now they're becoming, because of all the electronics, they're becoming more inside kids versus outside kids.
So true. So true. So and my son and I, Andrew has Down syndrome, and he's 20. He's really funny and he's really smart. We were watching Andy Griffith the other night, right? The old Andy Griffith, the black and white. And so this morning, as I was getting ready to come here, he said, "I want to be more like Opie." I said, "How so?" He goes, "I want to get outdoors more, and I want to obey you and Mom better." I'm like, "What? What's this kid's angle?" Okay, he wants more TV. That's what he's saying. But I like that. I said, Andrew, I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, teens are growing up in a different world. Would you say back to you? Is it Erica? Who's Erica? You're the Erica. You're the Stacy. I'm getting it. Would you say that Would you say that technology is the biggest change?
I know personally in my household, probably, yes.
How about the rest of you? Would you say that's the biggest change in the last 10, 15 years?
I would. I have a 29-year-old son.
Okay.
As well as a 18-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. And I was just telling them, there was different things that I have to put restrictions on Nicholas at 16 because Kevin at 16 didn't have a smartphone. He had a cell phone, but all it did was call me. That's all the cell phone did at that time.
Right.
So there's different rules, even from that 15-year difference of my boys.
Right.
So technology is definitely different.
Very good.
I would say yes, and that creates the whole aspect of what they're exposed to and what they are wanting to talk about earlier than
It is exactly like the 5-year-old who told his 5-year-old friend, guess what I found? I found my brother's condom on the patio. And the 5-year-old other friend said, what's a patio? You'll get that in a minute. You'll get that in a minute. Come on, Erica. Yeah, they're being exposed to stuff, you know.
And the excuse I always got and get is, we went to public school, Mom, we know this.
Yeah. Well, I remember at 9/11, parents asking, you know, how much do we let our children see this stuff and know about this stuff? And now with sexuality issues and same-sex attraction, and is he gay? Is she a homosexual? Is she a lesbian? Is she really a guy? Is she really a girl? All this conversation. You start wondering, how much do you expose your kids to this stuff? Which leads to tip number 2, teens are in transition. Fill in the word transition. And I think the solution is begin treating a teen less like a child and more like a young adult. You're going to have to maybe give them a little bit more rope. So what's going on in adolescent development as far as brain development is that most adolescent psychologists would say that your left brain, that's your speaking side, that's your analytical side, that's your writing, that's your reading side. The right side brain, teenager, young person, they're more visually driven, they're more abstract learning, and that's the creative side. But the whole idea is that the transitional piece has really changed. I remember my daughter experiencing her period a lot younger than other girls. In fact, it was kind of weird. I was at a speaking engagement. I called my wife just to say hello, and Rhonda was like, guess what? I was like, what? She was like, you know, I think Rachel was like 9. She was like, Rachel had her period. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks for telling me that. And then Rhonda was like, hey, you want to talk to Rachel? I was like, well, sure. And so she put the phone to Rachel's ear, and I was like, I didn't know if my wife wanted me to say anything to her about this moment. And I'm like, hi, Rach, how are you? She's like, good, good, good. I was like, what's going on? Oh, not much. I was like, so Mom said something happened to you. It was just dead silence. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. I was like, well, she goes, what do you mean? I was like, you know. And she goes, no, I don't know. And it was obviously they hadn't talked to each other, right? I was like, well, congratulations. And she was like on what? I was like, you know. And she goes, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, your period. And there's just like dead silence. I was like, hey, like when I get home, I didn't know what to say. I was like, when I get home, we'll have a period party. And she was like, no, Dad, no, Dad. And she basically just said, Mom, talk to him. I don't even know who he is. But the whole idea is that these kids are just in transition. In fact, our culture doesn't even know when you're an adult. I'll give you an example, okay? So back in 1903, there was a book written called Adolescence. It's written by a guy named G. Stanley Hall, and he identified adolescence in 1903 as a period of storm and stress. Now, is that profound or what? Storm and stress. So now we know that there's puberty happening and there's rites of passages going on, but like in our culture, you're just not really totally sure who is an adult and when is an adult. So, question, if you give your kid Bayer aspirin, do you know what it says on the Bayer aspirin thing that signifies you're an adult? Do you know how old that is? Take a guess. Very good. Yeah, 12 years old. So in our culture, how old do you have to be to, quote, technically go to a PG-13 movie? No, it's not a trick question. How old? 13, very good. And how old do you have to be to drive a car? 16, very good. And how old do you have to be to vote? 18. How old do you have to be to drink alcohol? Mm-hmm. How old do you have to be to rent a car? 25. Very good. Yeah, it's changed. Now, what is an adult on an airplane? American Airlines, Delta Airlines, US Air, United. What is an adult considered to be on an airplane?
I just looked up airline tickets, so 18.
No.
No? They asked me, kid, they told me 17 and under.
No, it's 3.
3?
Yes. Yes. An adult seat is a 3-year-old and up. Yes. Somewhere between 3 years old and 21, 25, somewhere in that long line, you're an adult. And for some people, they think you're not an adult till you get married. So congratulations, Jared. Some people think you're not an adult till you're married with children. I guess you're not an adult. And now that I'm going to be a grandpa, I'm definitely an adult. But the culture is confused. The culture is confused about what is an adult, what is not an adult. So there's all kinds of transitions. Flip your page. How many words does a teenage girl speak a day, and how many words does a teenage boy speak a day? Take a guess.
I have both.
Congratulations. I do too. Very good. Take a guess. Go ahead.
1,000.
For a girl, way up. Take a guess. Another guess.
Yeah. She would have 20,000. Yeah.
Well, who said 20,000? That's the answer. 20,000. And guys speak, guess what? How many words a day? 12 words. 3,000.
Every time I ask
For
a question,
dinner.
every time I ask a question, fine. You're saying-
How was school? Good. Yeah, my friend wrote a book on this, and it was subtitled "Why Girls Gossip and Guys Grunt," because that's really what it is. Because of the developmental part of the brain. All right, tip number 3. This is a fun one. Teens are seeking. Here's your fill in the blank. Autonomy. For your live streaming people, teens are seeking autonomy. So my friend Wayne Rice came up with a grid of phases of parenting that I think this is so profound and so interesting. So between, and they all start with the letter C, okay, so easy to remember. So Wayne Rice says that these are stages that a kid will go through, and this is probably how the parenting style is going to work. So your birth to 2 years old is the word cater. Here's your fill in the blank. So Wayne Rice says that between birth and 2, as you know, if you've had a kid, you understand this, everything revolves around them. They can do nothing for themselves. You clean them, you wipe them, everything you feed them, they cry, you run, they're hungry, you feed them. Everything they need, you cater to, okay? And that's the model for birth to 2. Then Wayne Rice says from 2 to 10, it shifts to the word control. Your job is to control the environment. All you have to do is make sure that they don't hurt themselves, right? I remember coming up one day and I smelled poop in the house. And my daughter was like 2.5, 3. And she was, I don't know what happened to her that day, but I came in there and there was poop all over the mirror. I guess she was digging for gold or something and she was putting it up. I didn't say that on live streaming. I didn't say that. But the goal is, and I've told this to parents, and they know this, your 5-year-old doesn't know that a car can kill them. They don't really know that. Intuitively, they don't know that. They don't know they can be hurt. So that's why we build garages and fences, and we do all these things to protect our kids because we're trying to control the environment. Makes sense, right? Now, you're going to now leave stage 1 and 2 as your kid gets older, a 10 to 14. Now, how many of you have a 10 to 14? Any of you? Okay, you are now a coach. You are going to leave the control, and you're moving to a coach. Now, in high school, I played 2 sports. I played tennis and basketball. My basketball coach was rough. He was kind of like, you probably don't know this name, Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight was an angry coach. He was always throwing things, always getting kicked out of games. He was a great coach in the sense of lots of wins, but he had an anger problem. I had that kind of coach. My tennis coach was really encouraging because he would always accentuate your strengths but kind of guide you in your weaknesses. And he rarely yelled, and I really responded to his leadership that way, the encouraging guy. So whatever kind of coach you like or don't like, you're a coach, all right? Which means you're not controlling as much, which means you're letting them fail more, and it means you're not so worried about them failing. And you're not letting it worry about like how it reflects on me. Now, the 14 to 18-year-old is the fun one. This is called the consultant. You're a consultant. So last year before pandemic, this church flew me in, and they wanted me to consult their youth ministry, youth and family ministry. I interviewed people. I did lots of sessions, a lot of listening. I wrote my report. Here was my report. They gave me a check. They put me on a plane. I flew back home. Done. That's what you're like as a consultant. You say this and this and this and this and this to your kid, and then you back off, and you let them succeed or fail. Oh, I know, mamas, this is hard for you. I know that because I'm married to a woman. Okay, I know this is hard. Because I'll meet parents, I'll like, what was it like sending your kid to college? And the moms are like, it was, right? And the dads are like, get him out of here, right? So it's letting go, okay? Now, this is really troublesome. I'll tell you why. Because if you have more than one kid, chances are you have one or more kids in different stages. Does that make sense? So like let's see, where was it? Florence, South Carolina. 2 months ago I did this. There was one family that had they had 5 kids, and they had them all spread out. So they had like a 2-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 14-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 22-year-old. So they were doing it all, right? The last stage, 18 and on, is called care. That's where you are basically saying, I'm just going to love on you. I'm not going to control you. I'm not going to cater to every whim you have. I'm not going to do that much coaching anymore. In fact, my daughter's 35, pregnant. She rarely asks for my advice, and I rarely give her advice because I learned quickly with a young adult that you give them advice, they take that as unsolicited criticism. Bank on that one. So they come home, you haven't seen them for a while, and you give them advice, they take it as criticism. So I've learned to try to not do so much of that. Now, I want you to talk to people on your team. So describe where are you on the cater, control, coach, consult, care. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to talk about that amongst yourself. Ready, set, go. Okay, tell me where you guys are at.
Consulting and caring. I'm the only one at this table at consulting and caring.
Okay, where are the other ones?
We're coach and control. No, I'm just coach. Yeah, coach.
You have a 14-year-old?
I have a 10 and a 12-year-old.
Okay, wow. You're coaching. Okay. That's easier sometimes than, yeah, yep. How about you all?
Coaching here. I've got a younger group of kids and an older group of kids.
And of all of those, which is the easiest for you and which is the hardest?
That birth to two was hard.
That what?
That birth to two was hard. Like they were in constant peril for their lives.
I think that was actually my favorite though. Just because it was no-brainer. I mean, I have a nurturing aspect anyway, so, or personality, so that was just what I did. And then when you get to control, not that I have a control issue or anything.
Yes, you do.
Then, I don't know, catering to me was, I don't think I could do that.
I think catering and control as a parent, even though it's physically demanding, I think it's easier because it's whatever you want for them is what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas as they get older, when you're in consulting and caring, you can't really, I mean, like my youngest one is working now, and he doesn't get home until almost 11 o'clock at night, and I will not fall asleep until I know he's home. And so, because now there's all these outside elements, like even when you're in catering control, even when you're not with them, you're still in control of who has them and who they're with. Whereas now it's like, no, I don't know, where does Life 360 tell me he's at? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So, you're dreading that phone call of, Mom, I was in a car accident. So, I think that's why it's harder. Is because you can't-
Does the caring piece feel passive to you?
Sometimes it feels like I'm not doing enough for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's my son, I should be helping more. Or I should be doing something that, like, he has to go through the hard things, and I hate watching that. Like, like I'm sitting back watching my son be unemployed going, somebody hire my baby.
Sure.
Give my baby a job. And,
Sure.
You know, it's hard. 'Cause
Yep.
You can't, you just have to sit back and go, well, did you apply here, or did you look, I mean, it just feels like I should be doing more.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Tip number 4, let's move on. Teens are expanding their relationships, which means you need to be friendly to your teens' friends. That doesn't mean you have to always like them. That is your kids' friends. So one of my daughter's best friends was named Ashley, and I didn't like Ashley. I just thought she was bad news, and I didn't really have any data or evidence for that. Just the vibes that she portrayed. There was just stuff about her I didn't like. So I never called her Ashley. I always called her Schlee. And my daughter one day, teenagers have what I call built-in crap detectors. In other words, they can spot it on us. And she was like, "You don't like Ashley, do you?" I was like, "Not really, no. To be honest, no. Why not?" I don't know. She just strikes me as like, she's always just wearing really tight clothes, and she just strikes me as someone who drinks or parties a lot. She goes, "She doesn't do any of that, Dad. She's so conservative." I said, "Okay, fair enough. Well, she doesn't dress conservatively." And so she said, "Well, you just," and I learned, you know how on your window, if you push on your car, you push the window and it goes up? You know what I'm talking about? It goes up. I could see that with my daughter. The more that I didn't like Ashley, she would push the window and the window would go up. She would emotionally cut off. So Rhonda, my wife, said, we need to do something to show Rachel that we like Ashley. I was like, I don't like her. But we need to do something to show Rachel that we like her friends, or at least that we're friendly to them. So we finished off our basement. We had an unfinished basement for like 10 years. We finished it off, turned it into kind of a game room, play room, TV room. And so one weekend, all her friends were down there, and I came down. I was like, how's it going down there? Good. How's everything good? Good. How's the marijuana? Just teasing. How's it going down there? Good, good, good. Anyway, I started to be friendly to Ashley, alias Schlee. Guess what happened to my relationship with my daughter? Got better. Guess what? A few years ago, Shlee asked me to officiate her wedding. So Shlee and I made progress. My daughter and I made progress. And if you don't like your kids' friends, that's okay. If there's things about them you don't like, that's okay. But what I started to learn when Rachel got older was I could not dictate to her who could be her friends and who could not. What I could do, though, is express my opinion. Does that make sense? And I think there's a fine line, because I think if you start to cut off your teenager or your young person's friendships, I learned this before I was ever a youth pastor. Friendships are the glue of teenage culture. I don't care how introverted they are or how extroverted they are. Friendships are the glue in adolescent culture. And so adolescents, they think we're stupid, don't they? They think we parents are dumb, and they think their friends know everything. And we as parents know their friends don't know jack. They don't have enough experience. So you have to kind of play with that and realize that. But I realized that I didn't know anything about Ashley. And so, I didn't know her parents. I didn't know her siblings. And so I started to ask myself questions like, how can I engage Ashley more so that we can break this barrier down? Because when we break that barrier down, we're going to break down the barrier between me and my daughter. Does that make sense? All right, tip number 5, then we'll take a 5-minute stretch break. And there's a whole lot of food for Jared to eat. Number 5, teens are developing values and beliefs. Don't panic. Practice more, preach less. Practice more, preach less. So your kids, they know what you believe, probably, more than they know what they believe. Okay? So let me ask you some questions and just sort of answer them in your head. Do you know what your kids believe about marriage? I'm just going to give you a couple of them. Do you know what they believe about same-sex attraction, homosexuality, lesbianism? Do you know what they think about divorce, abortion, politics, couples that live together, other religions, drinking? Do you know what they think about the Bible? And those are just some questions to be thinking about as you realize that one of the big forges that's going to happen from 16, 17, 18, I actually like to say it this way. Middle schoolers are more like engineers. They're all about thinking about how things work and building things. But 15, 16, 17, they become more like philosophers. They start thinking, why does something work and how does something work and what about this person and da-da-da-da-da. So you need to be thinking about how do you empower your kid to grow in the area of values and beliefs without forcing yours onto them. Because I found that, I remember one day, obviously I'm a preacher, professor. I remember my daughter coming in, she was like 12, and one day she was reaching into the refrigerator. She goes, I don't know if I believe in God anymore. I know she was looking for a reaction. Like, you will love Jesus, right? I didn't do that. I was like, oh, okay. Okay, well, he believes in you. And I just kind of walked away. And I could see her go, she did the Jared. She did your, because I could tell her that she wanted to fight, And I was like, I'm not going to fight her about this. And so I was developmentally trying to practice. I'm going to let her figure this out. And when she wants to talk about it, I am there for her. Does that make sense? Teens are developing personal values and beliefs. Don't panic. Practice more. Preach less. Why do we need to practice more? Because they have built-in crap detectors. They will smell it all the time. And if we just, yeah, about Jesus all the time and Bible, they're going to check out. Now, I'm not saying don't talk about it. I think we should talk about it. In fact, some of my best conversations with my children are at bedtime. And we talk about all kinds of theological things and fun things. And those are my best conversations. In fact, sometimes Rhonda, my wife, will say, you've been upstairs too long. You need to let them go to bed. I was like, these are some priceless moments I will never get back again. So those are some of your first tips. Let's take a 4-6 minute stretch break, bathroom break. We'll come back for 30 minutes more and get out of here. How's that sound? You guys good? Your bladder's ready to unleash? All right. See you in 4.5, 5 minutes. Get some food, get some drink. Okay. Okay, so we just talked about what's going on, a little bit of youth culture. Let's talk about us as parents and helping our kids do less damage than they're already doing. Have you ever heard this line? The trouble with being a parent is by the time you're experienced, you're unemployed. So I want to give you 6 tips, 6 principles, rather, about what's going on. And the first thing is called rules without relationships leads to rebellion. Rules without relationships lead to rebellion. Now, I'm all for rules. Someone will always ask me, well, why? Are you saying you can be a friend to your kid? I think sometimes you can, yeah, especially as they get older. But I think there has to be a balance of rules and relationships. So let me ask you, discussion-wise, what's the problem if you only have the rules and not the relationship? What's the problem with that? Rules and you don't have the relationship. What's the problem?
It's like taking money out of the bank and you don't have any in there.
It's good. What's the problem with having just the friendship and not the rules?
No respect.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and so if you want to be a friend to your kid, but you don't have the rules, you're going to probably create a little anarchy. You really are. But if you're heavy-handed, and so I listed 2 movies, Dead Poets Society, which is about a dad who wants his son to be an actor. He doesn't want his son to be an actor. The boy wants to be an actor. And the dad is just very rigid and kind of oppressive about the whole thing. And it leads the boy to taking his life eventually. It's really a sad story. But it shows what happens when you have only rules. Father of the Bride shows a balance of rules and relationships. Have you seen Father of the Bride? With Steve Martin? I love that movie. Steve Martin and Kimberly Williams. And he kind of, at first, at the end, part of the storyline is he gets a little legalistic like Dead Poet's father. You're not getting married, and that's final. But they have a relationship. And they come back to some compromise. And so recognize that rules without relationships leads to rebellion. My daughter was a cheerleader in high school. My wife was her coach. They went to a couple national championships. Both times I went and didn't tell either one of them I was coming. I flew in. I'm not a cheerleader fan, to be honest. I could hear my daughter. I could hear her cheering in the shower. I mean, it was hilarious. The house was shaking, right? And I remember even thinking, when I played high school basketball, the cheerleaders just seemed a little ditzy to me. And I had all these stereotypes about cheerleaders. None of them were probably right. But anyway, I surprised my daughter. And it meant the world to her. And there was one event, it was 9/11. I was speaking somewhere, and I had to drive across country, couldn't fly home because there were no planes going. And I got to my daughter's cheerleading event like an hour before it started. And she was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, I made a commitment in my heart, you don't know this, to be at all your events, and I'm here. And she kind of got a little misty. She says, "Okay, thanks, Dad, bye." And just, you can get sometimes you get if you can get just a little 30 seconds out of your kid, it's like, oh, you're doing okay. All right. So I want you to talk at your table about rules versus relationships. And how do you process it at your family? Ready, set, go. Right. What are you guys talking about? Let me eavesdrop in. What are you guys talking about? Have you figured out a system? Have you figured out a system to balance that, or is it ongoing? Okay.
I think it's harder, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mean to stereotype this because I have a daughter and sons, but I think it's harder to have a relationship with my sons because, especially at the coaching age, because it's just more of a, I ask a question, I get fine, the same. It was normal.
And how old is he?
16.
Okay.
Although the other day when they were on lockdown was his most exciting day, that's the day he had the most to talk about because the school was on lockdown.
How about that?
So I actually got a whole conversation out of him. It was exciting, but it's just, I ask questions, he gives me one-word answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to have the relationship part, I think,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when they're at that age.
My response was, when I grew up, I didn't have hard and fast rules. I didn't have a curfew. I didn't have, but it was because of the expectations, not really rules, that I was expected to communicate. I was expected to, like, when I get somewhere, I call. When I go somewhere, I call. When I, you know, and so that's kind of the way I raised my children. So
That's good.
it wasn't about rules necessarily. It's just, this is what we expect.
Right.
As long as you go along with that, then we don't have to set rules.
Those kind of were rules, just kind of like not, I mean, you followed them, so they didn't have to be enforced. Does that make sense? Like, I mean,
But like some of their friends, I don't know why he has to be home at, like he's a minute after 10:02, he is, grounded for the next whatever. And mine was like, okay, if you're home at 10:15, as long as you're safe, as long as you have communicated that you're on your way, so I think
That's good.
that's,
But it sounds like your parents though had principles more than rules.
yeah,
Does that sound about right?
principles, expectation, yeah.
Yep. Good. Number two. Principle number 2. Catch your teen in the act of doing something good. Catch them in the act of doing something good. Okay, so do you guys remember when the dam was built from Lexington over Lake Murray into Irmo? Do any of you remember that at all? Do you remember when it was finished? I remember when it was finished because I was driving over it, right? And one day I was talking on my, because I remember this because I had a flip phone, all right? This is how many years ago it's been. I had a flip phone. And I'm going down the hill into Lexington, and I see a police officer speed by me on the left side. I'm talking to my friend David. His name's David as well. And he's like, "Are you there? Are you there?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was distracted. I was watching this police guy just drove by on my left. He's after somebody." He was coming back for me, the police guy. And he pulled me over. And I don't know if you have police officer friends or in their family, but they are tricky. So they sit there in the car for like 6 to 8 minutes, right? I don't know. I think the strategy is to make you scared, and it works, right? And so I'm like, what's going on here? And so he comes up and he says, "Hello, Mr. Olshine. How are you today?" He knows my name. I don't know how he knows my name, but Big Brother's watching you, right? He goes, Do you know how fast you were going? I said, "No, sir." He said, "Do you know the speed limit here?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Good things to know, Mr. Olshine." And I was like, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, you were going 70, and this is a 35-mile zone." I said, "Oh, I didn't." I said, "With all due respect, I didn't see any signs." He goes, "Well, I'm not going to give you." I thought he was going to say, "I'm not going to give you a ticket." But he goes, "I'm not going to give you the big ticket, which would be like $400. I'm going to give you one." And it was like $78. All right, it's the only ticket I've ever gotten in my whole driving lifetime. And I noticed that the way he caught me was with one of those guns, right? And I started thinking, that's the way we are as parents. We're like, caught you being a little ADD. Oh, I told you not to come in the refrigerator. We start to do that. We start to look for the thing that they're deficient in. Let me give you an example. So my senior year of college, I pastored 3 country Methodist churches, right? They were all real small. One was like 12 people, one was like 18 people, and the big one was like 30 people. That felt like a mega church in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. One of the deacons, and he had to deke every Sunday night, he had a wart, Jared, right on his front nose. So when I talked to him, it was so hard not to stare at that wart. You know what I'm saying? I think we're that way as parents sometimes with our kids. We find the one wart that's deficient, like they're not studying enough, or they're too smart aleck, or they're too sassy, or they're too lazy, or they're too this. Or we focus on the one wart, and we miss everything else that's beautiful about them, okay? Catch your kid in the act of doing something good, not in the act of doing something bad, because the mode of operation of most parents is to catch their kid in the thing that they're deficient in, and the parent is ready to pounce on them like a lion. So look for the good thing in that kid. And I learned this from my daughter years ago when the teacher started giving them a little button called CIA. It was caught in the act of doing something good. So do that. Number 3, now this is a fun one. Choose your battles wisely, or you will be battling all the time. Choose your battles wisely. Now, we're going to play a game. It's called Yay or Boo. On the count of 3, I want you to go yay. 1, 2, 3, ready? Yay. Oh, that was terrible. Ray? 1, 2, 3, ready? Yay. Okay, on the count of 3, boo. 1, 2, 3, ready? Boo. All right, I'm going to give you a list of things that you would say, this is worth battling over. This is a worthy battle. This is what I call going to the mat, a wrestling match. This is worth going to the mat over. If it's worth that, I want you to go to yay. If it's not worth it, I want you to go boo. Now, Jared, you can't really participate in this. But mamas, you can't say yay on every one, okay? I just got to give you that, all right? You got to have a couple boos. All right, so be realistic. Here we go. I'm going to give you a list. Hairstyle. Smoking cigarettes. Okay. Volume of music. Come on, Journey fan. There you go. Lying to parents. Lying to parents, okay? Males wearing earrings. Using drugs or alcohol. Yeah, I've never had a boo on that one. Messy room. Using foul language. Choice of food. Use of time. Table manners. Choice of friends. Poor grades. Belching in public. Stealing money from you. Talking back. Missing curfew by 10 minutes. Missing it by an hour. Regular church attendance. Oh, this is one so loaded, isn't it? Because you're in a church, right? Not doing household chores. Come on, mamas, you guys are awful quiet back there. Attitude. Tattoos. Not doing homework. Okay, let's stop there. Now, I want you to talk with your team. I want you to think through what's the 2 biggest issues for you that you're willing to go the mat over. Like if you could prioritize and say, number 1 is this, and number 2, like I'll just give you an example. I feel like if you're married, you're allowed to, if you're a single mom or single dad, you're allowed to have a few more. Okay? I just think that's right. If you're divorced, you're allowed to have a couple more. Widow, allowed to have a couple more. If you're married, I think each person can have 1 or 2 each, but you can't have like 10. It's too many. You'll be fighting here with your kid all the time. So like, for example, with Rhonda, with Rachel growing up, it was grades. But that wasn't my battle. That wasn't my issue because I didn't do well in school. So I felt like I was being hypocritical. For me, it was attitude. And for Ron, it was grades. And so what we had to do is had to say, I support your mom on this. I support mom on this. Or she supports David on this. So tell me the two, I'm willing to go the mat over these two things with my child or children. All right, I'm giving you 3 minutes to talk about it, and then I want to hear from you. Ready, set, go. Got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, time's up. Tell me what your battles are. What's number one and number two for you? Let's go around the room. Start with you.
Well, I didn't come up with anything like that. That was really like, it was make or break or die. But we were talking about respect,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had just started talking about like church attendance and kind of what that looked like, and some of the, we were just getting started.
Okay, fair enough.
Respect is the big one.
Yes, I understand that. Good.
Importance of showing real effort at school.
That's really huge for you. Okay. Respect. Okay.
Having the cleanliness of the household and those kind of issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Attitude.
Attitude.
'Cause to me, it's the foundation of everything.
Pretty much, yeah. You understand why you can't have too many, right? Right? You understand that? If you have too many, what's the problem? You'll be battling all the time. And you don't want that. You don't want that. Number 4, learn your kids' love language. Learn your kids' love language. When I started doing this seminar like 20 plus years ago, I wish I'd had this one. This has been the game changer for me in my relationship with my 2 kids. And it's not so much, I don't know if you've ever read the book, but I haven't. I'm just going to be honest. I have not read the book, but I've read like 20 critiques and reviews of the book, so I understand there's words of encouragement, giving, like serving someone, giving them presents. Third is actually serving them when they don't ask. 4 is physical touch. And 5 is quality time. Now remember, quality time with a teenager and quality time with an adult could be really, really different. Quality time with a girl, young person, and a quality time with a guy, young person, are going to be different. What you need to figure out is, what is your love language? Track with me for a minute. And what is your kid's love language? I'll tell you why. All right. So, pretend you're my daughter. Okay, you're Rachel. Okay. So I think in middle school, because love language for David Olshine with me and my wife is really quality time and physical touch. Well, I start thinking, well, mine's physical touch. It's got to be Rachel's, right? So I go and hug you, and it's like hugging a board, right? I mean, well, let's pretend, right? Be stiff. Very good. Be stiff, right? I'm like, what's wrong with her? Well, there's nothing wrong with her. That's not her love language. Well, I'm trying to put my love language onto her, expecting her to reciprocate. Well, guess what love language I don't have? Gifts. I'm just not naturally good at giving gifts. Now, I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but that's just not how I'm wired. Guess what Rachel's love language is? Rachel, here's some dirt from Texas. Oh, Daddy, thank you so much. Right? She's so excited. Why? Because that's her love language. So what happens is, a lot of us, we start to try to give our love language, what we think is our love language to them. That's not their love language, and so they don't get it. They don't reciprocate, and we get offended. We take it personal. So what you need to do is figure out, what is your kid's love language and what is their love language not. Does that make sense? Because talk with me out loud. If you know yourself well enough on this kind of grid, what is your love language? I mean, what do you like? What do you like? How do you receive love? Is it through words, gifts, service, touch, or quality time? You like words of encouragement. So you feel great if someone encourages you, right? So let's say one of your 2, that's not theirs. And so you say, I was around Rachel's. That's not her love language. I go, you look great. And she'd say, exactly. Because you know Rachel. And sometimes she'd say, yeah, whatever. I mean, literally like, yeah, whatever, roll her eyes. I learned quickly, I can, now she's gotten better at that as she's gotten older, but that's just words of encouragement just don't drive her. So I was like pouring it on, you look great, thanks. Stop, Dad, stop. I mean, she'd really say, stop. Find out what your kid's love language is, but primarily find out what it isn't, because chances are if you give them what it isn't, remember the window analogy? They push the window and the window goes up. They shut you out. Learn your kids' love language. Number 5. Bring Jesus into the center of the relationship by discussing your faith story. There's a book called Sticky Faith, and their research says that only 1 out of 10 parents ever talk faith issues with their kids. And the data said, your children, my children, want to hear your faith story. Past, present, and maybe where it's going in the future. They want to hear your successes, but they want to hear your failures. They want to hear, how do you integrate faith with your job? How do you integrate it with your marriage? How do you integrate it with your life? And so, like I said, and you hold up that book for me real quick. So that book stays on the go. I wrote that with parents in mind. That's right, do. I wrote that in mind with parents. It's just a lot of questions that you can ask your kids. And there's might be 1 or 2 over there. Feel free to first come, first serve. But I wrote that so that parents can have faith discussions with their kids that are not threatening. So bring Jesus into that. And your kids want to hear your faith story. And it's funny, both of my children, Rachel and Andrew, both can tell my faith story and Rhonda's faith story to anybody. If you had put a gun to their head, well, my daddy, he became a Christian when he was 18 years old, and my mommy, she became a Christian when she was 8 years old because some bully picked up on her brother, and Rhonda, you know this story, Jared? Rhonda, someone was picking on my wife's brother, and Rhonda went and grabbed the kid and threw him off his bicycle. Got a girl, Rhonda. I wish I had a story like that. Mine's just lame with drugs and alcohol, but she threw the boy off the bicycle. That's a good one. Number 6, and finally, as a parent, you are the primary spiritual leader of your family, but lean on the church and youth ministry as supplemental. We sent our kid, Rachel, to Christian school because we felt like we needed the extra help. We felt like we needed extra added faith. And Deuteronomy 6 says that we shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and impress on your children when you're waking up, breakfast time, when you're going to bed, dinner time, when you're walking by the way, when you're lying down, when you're rising up. Lean on each other, but lean on the church. Get the resources. And here's your best resources right here for parenting, people that you see at your little table. Your time with your kid matters. Every minute. You are building history, you're building legacy, you're building something incredible. So ask God to be at the center of it. I wake up every morning and my first prayer is basically, Lord, thank you for another day, and Lord, help me do whatever I need to do today to love on my kids and let them know that I value them and I love them and how special they are. We have a huge job. And God obviously gave it to us to do it. And so he's honored us to do that. Let's take about 3 or 4 minutes, see if you have any comments, questions, things you want to talk about, and a little Q&A. I'd be glad to do that with you. If something's percolating in your head, you want to ask a question, how to navigate something.
Right now I'm navigating, I don't cares. It doesn't matter what the subject is. The opposition is, well, I don't care.
Does it children-wise?
The 12-year-old.
Uh-huh.
And now the 10-year-old behind the 20-year-old. I don't care. You're going to fail. You've made 1500s, but you've also got 4 zeros.
Yeah.
If you just make 50 on those zeros, you'd be doing pretty well right now. I don't care. I don't want to do it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to fall over that stuff in the floor in the night if you get up. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something inside of me that doesn't ever want to be a helicopter parent that just hovers over them. I don't want to be a lawnmower parent that cuts the grass so neatly for them that I want them to fail a little bit. Can I tell you a story? I got arrested for possession of marijuana when I was 16 years old. And looking back, my mom had the choice of leaving me in a jail overnight or bringing me home. And she brought me home. And looking back, I don't know if I really think this, but I kind of think it. I think I should have been left overnight in jail to think about it, And I think it probably would have pulled me out of the party scene a lot quicker. So I know that's a touchy thing, but I think there are times. There are times to rescue our kid, and there's times to let them gurgle a little water in their throat. Yeah. So that's tough, but they're going to have to learn the hard way. It looks like for some of them.
Do they really not care, or is that just blowing you off?
They're just blowing you off. I think they care. And some of them, though, intuitively can't think future anyway. So if you say, the line that my mom used to say, if you don't do this, you won't get this. And if you don't do this, you won't get a job. If you won't get a job, you won't get married. If you don't get married, you won't have kids. And I was like, that didn't mean anything to me at 16 years old, right? I'm thinking about today and tomorrow. I'm not thinking about, graduating from high school, going to college, getting a degree, getting married, having children, having a house, and buying a boat. I'm not thinking about any of that. So yeah, I think maybe that's a reaction. Go away. Good stuff. Someone else.
The love languages of, I think I would ask more questions than have really statements about it. But the love languages and how people receive, same as like the DISC assessment or Myers-Briggs,
Yes.
any of those kinds of things.
Yes.
When I worked for a healthcare company, I had the chaplains that worked for me put DISC assessment and love languages together in how they reached hospice families. It wasn't about the way they received the information, it was about how the hospice family received it. And it's very interesting as far as the assessment goes. And I think that with our kids, and actually Elizabeth, my daughter and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Well, Mom, you know my love language is. And I was like, well, no, actually I didn't know that. But it was just interesting. Obviously, she goes to CSU. So obviously something in one of the classes down there had spoken those words.
Yep.
And she was applying it. And I just wonder, and I thought about this about 10 years ago as well. I just wonder, because I am children's ministries, I just wonder where I would go or how I would get there with a study or with thinking about helping even, I wouldn't call it, what's your love language? But helping them figure out what part of that they are attracted to most.
Mm-hmm.
Even as young as like first and second grade, to where they would be able to at least be thinking on it. And not that it would stay the same, it would change, but how, I don't know, that's got me started thinking. Love languages for kids. Love languages for kids, but how everybody receives information and how, one, it changes, two, I don't know, it's just got me thinking of your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think you're talking about a depth and a breadth of how does a person assess who I am, like my skill sets, my passions. In fact, I've done like with my strategies as a youth minister class a couple years ago. I had this diagram of like one circle is passions, then one's like skill sets, and one's like Myers-Briggs temperament, and one is like hobbies, and one is like interest and like geography. What if I could live anywhere? Where would I want to live? And what you're doing is you're helping the students start to vision a little bit for their life. Like if you could live anywhere, where would you want to live and why? Or if you could go on a 2-week trip, all expense paid, where would you go and why? And all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're tapping into their intuitive possibility side. So yeah, hey, create something, write something. No, write something, get it published, get it out there. We need stuff like that.
But I just feel like if we help them understand who they are and how to see that everybody's not the same, we don't have to talk about diversity. We don't have to talk about all the different. God made us all individuals.
Yep.
And the way we do things, the way the color. I mean, we talk about the color of our hair or the how many hairs on our head. We go through all those verses. But I don't know. It
That's
also
good.
has to do with the way we receive information, not just the hairs on our head. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I gotta think more with that because I'd like to have something like this for younger parents.
Yeah. And I think, too, part of our job as parents is to vision cast for our kids, or at least help incite the process. So, like, I could see in my child with Down syndrome, I could see early on how much he loved to read. And we were told that kids with Downs might not read. He loves to read, And so he's got probably 3,000 books at home on animals. He loves animals, and he knows everything about animals. And so, like, we at the gym, he and I will pick up a conversation with someone about animals, He'll say, Jared, he'll say, what's your favorite animal? I mean, he just does that with everybody. And he's really interested in knowing what. So we're starting to be able to guide him a little bit. He'll probably work at a zoo someday. It's probably going to be his job, his vocation. So I think we can see certain things about our kids that they can't see about themselves. So I think that's where that vision casting can work well with them. Is like my mom, she told me in 7th grade, she said, I think you'll be a great public speaker someday. And back then I was like, I wasn't on my radar. I was like, no thanks, I'm not interested. But she put a seed, she planted a seed in my soil that, now has paid some dividends. Thank you for your time. I want to pray for you. As you leave, I want you to think about one thing as you drive home. What's one takeaway today for you and your family? And it might be something that's brand new, maybe like the love language. Maybe it's rules without relationships. Maybe it's like give my kid more space, give him more autonomy. Maybe it's something you're already doing and you just want to do more of it. But think about just one. Don't think about 2 or 3 or 4. That's too many. Think about one takeaway that you can have as you head home. Thank you for letting me be here. Lord Jesus, thanks for this time together. I pray a blessing over each mom, each family here, that you would guide them to love their children well, to know how to draw questions, answers out of them, how to create an intimacy with them that will be a lifelong relationship, not just a couple years during adolescence. Thank you for Jared and for hosting this, and I pray great dividends and great blessings in the future for these families. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.